and in this video we're going to be moving the axle back on Old Blue and starting it and driving it. So I guess let's get into that video.
All right, so what we're gonna do here is on this is a 91 Ford F350 frame with the 7.3 diesel and ZF5 5-speed. And we put this 52 Ford cab on top of it, F5 cab, and it was lined up with the bed. The bed is off the original truck. But as you can see, the tires don't sit centered under the fender well here. So we didn't want to cut the fender well. We thought about it. We put some marks on it that you can barely see now. But we decided we're just not going to do that. And we think we can move the axle back 3 inches on the leaf springs without changing the leaf springs or where they're mounted. We're just going to try to move the axle on the leaf springs. So that way it's centered and we can get full turning without cutting up the cab. So we're gonna get started on that and I'll try to video for you guys. The problem is it's sunny out and it's warm, and if my phone is in the sun, it will shut off. So I don't know how good of views I can give you guys of most of the stuff. I will go through and explain it. But for any fast filming spots, like where we do time lapse over the most working on the thing, I probably won't have much of that because my phone would have to sit in the sun and that just doesn't work for filming. But let's get into it. First things first, I'm gonna have to jack up. I'm gonna jack up under the axle, and I'm gonna put these either on the back of the leaf springs or the front of the leaf springs. And then I'll go ahead and unbolt the axle and see if it will slide back. So far, shocks, sway bar, steering linkages, everything looks like it'll still clear. Pumpkin and axle shaft underneath that cross member looks like it'll still clear moving 3 inches back. And there's about 6 inches here and 1 inch there. So if we move 3 inches back, it would even out in the center. So I got all the U-bolts loose, all the nuts off of them. This one here actually broke on that one, which I might need to get longer ones anyways because I might have to put a block in there to move it back. But I'm gonna go ahead and knock these U-bolts out and try to slide the axle back. Well, my phone died, or I guess it didn't die, it ran out of space to record, but now we're recording again. And the axle has been unbolted, and it's scooched back to where the axle's about even. I did have to take the drive shaft loose, and that and the stabilizer bar. We'll have to move the stabilizer bar back and probably shorten the drive shaft. But I think we can just make blocks under there and work on the shock mounts and make it all fit. But the axle looks a little more centered now, and I think it'll work great. So I think that's all for today, but we'll get back to it again sometime. All right, so we have the axle slid back, which it's not perfectly centered yet. We'll get to that in a minute. But what we're gonna do is this is roundabout where it will be sitting. So I'm going to take and cut a piece of strap to put in here to make a level base. And then I will cut out of this 1/2 inch by 3 steel. I will basically cut a lift block to go in there with a hole drilled in it for the end of that bump on the spring to sit down into, so it holds in place to the spring, and then it has something level to sit in from that filler piece I'm gonna make, which I'll probably weld that filler piece to this. And then on the bottom side, I'll take and I'll weld a bolt head or just build up weld or something to go in the little hole on the axle to keep everything all lined up. And with the axle being back like this, I'll probably, the shock kind of needs to stay where it is. I'll probably put a U-bolt back here that goes in front of the axle, and then one up here that just goes and holds the front of this mount, and then one way back here to the back of the axle, and call that good. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out the pieces for back here, and I have them kind of traced out. I think they're 4 inches long, kind of traced out on this piece of angle, so we'll cut them out of that. Well, we decided we weren't gonna put a spacer in it, and we're just gonna instead pull the leaf springs because they need rebushing, and we're gonna move the little bolt that goes through them. We're gonna get new bolts for them, and we're gonna drill a new hole, and we're gonna move the shock mounts back and move everything for that goes on the leaf spring for the axle back. And we're just gonna put a new hole in the leaf spring. So we're gonna take the axle out and do that. The bushing's moving, not the thing. Do these have the metal bushing inside of the rubber bushing, or are they just rubber?
I would guess it's got the metal inside of the rubber. size you can beat down in there. Just
Put it back. Now we're getting good at it.
Okay, that's through all the way.
Well, here we are working on the 52. It has actually been forever since I messed with this thing. It's been sitting on here forever on these jack stands with no springs under the front end. So I don't know where I left off, but I am going to, I think I drilled the springs and I'm gonna pop the springs apart and put some bolts in there. And I'm only gonna film each spot after I've done each thing. I would film a time lapse of me doing it, but I do not have a tripod and I don't think I'll find anything good enough to stand the phone up to where while messing with leaf springs, I'm not gonna knock the phone over or shake it off the bed. So I'll show you guys where I'm at the moment. So I do know that I need to pull those shackles or whatever you'd want to call them out of there. The bolts gonna be kind of hard to get to. Probably won't want to slide out of these. They're kind of seized in there most likely. So I don't know if I'll torch them out, if I'll undo them, what I'll do, but these need to come out because I have new ones. And technically, it does not feel like it needs new ones. But, oh well, I got new ones. All kinds of junk back here. Here's the springs. Here's the new things. The springs have been drilled out, so I need to whack that off. Put a bolt in it for centering them and move them back. And I also know that the shock tower has to move right there. And that's as far as I know at the moment. I'll get to working on it and see where I end up. Alright, so I have both the springs physically finished. The bolt hole has been moved 3 inches back, 3.5, whatever it was. Sandwiched back on there. There's a flat level spot in the spring here. Here's kind of an angle, but I think it probably should be fine, and I'm pretty sure I've heard of other people doing this, so I'm hoping and it probably should be all right. There's new bushings in it, new of the little plastic pads in there, and that's it. Both of them are put together. So next, I think I'll probably be pulling these out of the front end and replacing them with these new ones. Well, here we are. Those top hangers are on. The leaf springs are on. None of the bolts are tightened. Since the shocks have not yet been moved, I unbolted them from their bracket, and I'm gonna go ahead and pop the U-bolts in this thing and tighten them down. All right, so the axle's under it, the U-bolts are on, the front shackles here are on, the bolts are loose, so are they also on the back of the leaf spring. The reason for that is I think I have a hair too small bolt, and I don't have time to get some yet, so this will get it rolling, because it's in the way and has been sitting in the way for a year or so probably. The shocks are not attached. I'm going to leave them like that because I need to move the towers back. And you cannot see it from here, but there's just one bolt, not even bolted, holding the sway bar off the ground. You can see the drive shaft is hanging because it needs shortened. And I'll explain that here real quick. So the reason I left this the way it is because I work pipeline, and in a couple days I need to get out of Kansas and I have some more things to do. And this fabrication would take quite a bit. And I did say on the channel we are going to make better quality videos and more of them. But this video here is was started a long time ago, and I got to Kansas and just got a little bit of time to put it together to get it rolling out of the way. And I got to be back in Arkansas. So just for sake of getting this video out of the way, I am not going to finish this up correctly. I'm just going to leave it all like this so I can roll it out of the way. And perhaps maybe I'll have some time off winter or something, and I can do it right, and I can make an in-depth video using clips from this video possibly of what I did, and actually showing the fabrication of all the brackets that I will do, like the sway bar mount and moving the shock towers and shortening the drive shaft probably. But just to get this video out of the way, to move the truck out of the way, it's just going to sit like this for now. I will probably throw all the 37-inch tires around it and give you guys a look with all the tires on it. And that'll probably wrap up this video here. Later on, hopefully the winter, we will do an in-depth video finishing this thing up. So let's get to the rest of this. So before I put rear tires on this, I'm going to show you guys the axle spacing. There it is. It's about even between front and back now. And I still need to change the 2 tires there on the back. This tire on this side needs fixed. And there's the front once again. That's the only rim that fits on this truck because it's a Ford rim. The rest are Chevy rims, so they don't fit over the axles. So I probably won't get to that in this video, but at some point I'll need to grind out the insides a little bigger. I'm going to take the rear dually spacers off that truck. And I'm going to throw the inner tire on, 1 3-inch spacer, 2.5 inch, whatever it is, and then another dually tire, because the tires are wide enough, they stick past the rims and they will rub. So I need to get those spacers, and I'll bolt everything up, but I'll bolt it loosely because they do not fit how they're supposed to over the hub centering system because they're Chevy rims. So at some point later on down the road, I'll grind them out and make them fit right. But for now, they'll just kind of be for looks and to roll it. And right here, you can see the tire sits within the bed. It's going to sit about 3 inches further out, or 2.5, whatever the spacer is. Which I kind of like how a lot of pipeline rigs are done. Their tires stick out a little bit. I'm starting to like that. So this will have that look, which will be kind of cool. And if you turn the tire straight, it'd tuck in there a little more, but the front's about like that. So it honestly might match up and look pretty good. A lot of people offset their tires a bit, sticking out for looks. And this will kind of have that look, unless later on we decide to change something with the fenders to make it not be like that. It's my wife's truck. She'll decide on that. But, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with this truck really in the future, whether it's going to end up actually pulling trailers and getting worked and driving through pastures, which would sling mud up in the air. So it'd be nice if they were tucked under, but I don't know. My wife keeps things nice, so she probably wouldn't do that. I would probably use it for work. But it might be a pavement princess, and it might be okay that the tires stick out. I don't know. It's up to her. But for now, they're going to stick out a couple inches. So let's get them tires put on. Truck with all the tires on it. They're on correctly and they're on all the way around now. Looks pretty good. Fills up the fender wells a lot better. They do stick out a little bit. But it looks pretty good. I like the back of the flatbed. Well, thanks for watching. Sorry that video was not properly how it should have been. We're just short on time. We will do an actual correct video on this at some point where we build some good bracketry for the front axle, and we'll have a test drive in there. So catch you on the next one on Black Diesel Garage. See ya.